What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dog Sports. I am Mike. That is Evo. And I may be a mean cuss, but I'm the same mean cuss to everybody out on that football field. I've had a great day. It's been fantastic. The football world lost its collective minds in the last 24 hours with what has happened to my team, the Cleveland Browns. Shit's wild. I can't wait to get into it, but we got other trades to talk about. Myles Garrett, I'm going to be stuck on that topic for a very, very long time. But my guy, Evo, we had some news in your team's world as well. Your Vikings have a GM, but my guy, welcome in. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm a year older. I made it by without most people knowing my birthday happened, which is always a goal of mine. I love doing that. The wife took me out for a helicopter lesson. I got to fly a helicopter this last weekend, which was pretty damn cool. That's an extremely unique experience, something that, obviously I'm in the aviation world professionally, but something that I would have never gone out and done myself unless I had the absolute FU money to just throw around like that. So for her to do that for me was pretty damn cool. Definitely a wild experience going to a actual manned helicopter pilot instructor. And I told him off the rip, I was like, hey, I don't want to make this a thing, but I am an instructor for a military flight school. I've got like 3,000 flight hours. I know some general aviation stuff, but I want to be a blank canvas for you because I get upset when students come to me and they're like, I already know everything. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. But as kind of a foundation for you, I have some background knowledge. And rather than doing the 1 hour prep class beforehand, he was like, all right, just come out with me then and we're going to pre-flight this thing and go fly. So I literally got thrown into it.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome.
And I think I did all right. Definitely felt out of sorts. Definitely felt like I was flying places I shouldn't have been because I flew right over Tucson International's tower and the Boneyard at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base and all over the place. Did an auto rotation, like stuff that I wouldn't expect you would do in your first hour of live flight. So it was pretty damn sweet. So thank you to my lovely wife for that gift. That was awesome and a memory that I will cherish as long as I have a memory, because I'm sure that's going to go sometime in the future. But yeah, so it's been pretty awesome. And I'm getting ready for another sweet little vacation. Going to be going up to Sedona for her birthday / our anniversary, 1 year anniversary type of weekend getaway in Sedona and go hiking and stay in a little mansion villa. So yes, just living it up a little bit this weekend, having a good time. So I'm super stoked, but I'm also super stoked to be here going over all of the crazy stuff that happened in the NFL on June 1st. But before we really jump into that, big news for you in your neck of the woods.
Myles Garrett's gone. So I don't really like to talk about myself all that much, but sometimes I will. I loved the game of football for forever. That's why we do this, right? And when I was in Arizona working with you, I had the opportunity to coach at the youth level. And I love it. I love coaching baseball here at the youth level. Well, there was an opportunity that came open at Riverside High School, and I have been hired to be an assistant coach on their varsity staff. And we're moving up to Division I this year, so the top level of Ohio football. I'm very, very pumped. I also get to work with a guy, we call him CT, has been coaching offensive line for 45 years. I get to stick with the offensive line and learn from a guy like that. I'm very excited, man. I got to meet some of the kids today. We got one kid that's already a Penn State commit. So I cannot wait to get, my feet a little more wet and get going with Riverside. We got the best damn line around. BDLA. I found out today that is that's the little thing we break down with. So I can't wait to get back out there Thursday for install day 2.
That's really cool, man. Look, obviously you coached here. I coached flag football for 5-year-olds for 1 year, but I did a little bit of coaching, high school football coaching when I was still in high school and I couldn't play anymore because I had blown my knee out. Got to do some stuff with the JV team, and it was extremely rewarding from a very different perspective from being a player, but it allows you to still be involved and kind of help shape the lives of young men and everything. I'm super excited for you on that front. I know it's going to be extremely rewarding, whether or not it opens other doors up, because that's absolutely kind of what happens, is that people, they can go the college route of coaching and stuff like that and find their ways into bigger leagues and stuff like that. A lot of people start off at the high school level and grow from there. So I, don't know what your ultimate goals are with it. Just probably seeing where it goes right now and enjoying yourself. But you get to probably get on like Amazon and find a whole bunch of this is how to be a coach type books and stuff like that. And you get to learn, you got to learn a whole bunch of different swagger sayings and stuff like that. Things that are real slick that stick with the kids. Because you think back to your youth when you were going through football.
Oh, yeah.
You always had a coach or coaches that they would say something and it would be real. It have some swagger to it, have some slick to it, and it sticks with you forever. I can multiple things come to mind to me of some of my high school coaches, of things that they said to me. And most of them can't be uttered on this show.
That's exactly what I was fucking thinking. I was like, I don't think that I wanted to out any of my high school coaches like that for the shit that was said at those practices in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and it was a different time, but there's still ways to do about it and be impactful. And that you're going to be able to probably bring things to those young men's lives that they'll be talking about 30 years later, almost like we are. Well, 30 years, god damn, not 30. Quite a few years later, on their own future podcasts on Mars, being like, I remember Coach Carlisle said, can't fit a teapot through a dilly hole or something like that. And
I gotta make sure I don't bring too many militaryisms out, because I'm gonna corrupt these kids too early.
You know what? I think that the military background actually is going to play a huge benefit.
That's actually one of the reasons that I was hired for this position. Coach Ish told me straight up. He's like, I love the military background. This is one of the things that makes me want to bring you in. He also told me that I appear like an intense guy, so I should be on the varsity staff and not the freshman staff.
Intensity can be a good thing. It can be a good thing for the freshman staff too, though. Sometimes the kids need that. For sure. And I will bring up one anecdote.
Okay, here we go.
The most PG one that I can think of. And this is definitely probably misogynistic for the time, but it is what it is. I had old Coach Darby, defensive coordinator back in the day, who he was there in our strength and conditioning programs. And I don't even remember how it came up, but he was talking about how you select a woman to spend the rest of your time with. And he said, man, you got to find yourself a big woman. Got to find yourself a big woman. He said, keep you warm in the winter. They're never going to leave you.
Some Minnesota shit.
And if there's a tornado, you can hold on to them.
Yeah.
And I love it. Did not heed the words exactly, but it was a great time. But yeah, man. All right. So we had June 1st.
Hold on. I got mine. I got to do mine too.
All right.
And this was a lot cooler. I was like, hell yeah. But our defensive coordinator, I believe it was our defensive coordinator that would always say, you guys win state, fucking your dick grows 2 inches. And that was my motivation. I was like, well, fuck, I need to win state.
Yeah.
Still waiting on those 2 fucking inches, because I won. We won my senior year. 2 inches didn't show up, but I mean, yeah, that was the one that always stuck with me. He's like, yeah, you win state, your dick grows 2 inches.
I vaguely remember something about us getting to bang out the other team's girls or something like that.
Yeah, there's some surly shit that gets said when you're trying to motivate people to win state.
You're talking to growing young men who are thriving in the throes of puberty and all that. And yeah, you got to find a way to really focus that energy correctly.
Correct. Yeah. Stay away from the girls. Let's focus on football. All right. With that, let's transition into the show. I appreciate you bringing that up, brother. I'm going to have a little celebratory drink.
Very nice.
I have always wanted to coach high school football. Like going higher would be cool. Like you brought that up, but high school is where I want to be 100%. Like to really learn the nuances of coaching, like higher level football. Like it would be cool to be on a staff in college because I know a guy, but I can get so much more out of this, and I think I can provide a lot more at this level. So
hey, it's the same thing on the military side. It's cool being a soldier at times. It also sucks. And then it's cool when you're at the lowest levels of leadership and stuff like that. And as you get higher, things get a lot more political and things like that. So it's, it's got its pros and cons, but definitely, the grinders down on the lower levels. That's where a lot of the fun comes from.
Yeah. I'm going to have a good time, man.
Really cutting your teeth. But so we did have June 1st happen. Today's June 2nd. So we're still reeling, even though it feels like it's been, 72 hours since the 1st of June. That's a notable date in the NFL because it's when a lot of contractual things happen. You hear about post June 1st cuts. There's technically no post June 1st trades, though trades can be worked out prior to and executed after June 1st. And it has to do with how contracts and things end up hitting the salary cap for that year, the previous year, and future years. So we already kind of thought that we might see a trade go down yesterday. There was a, widely syndicated story surrounding the New England Patriots.
One person's getting,
that's why I said syndicated. That a player might be going there, and we were all kind of waiting with bated breath for AJ Brown to get traded to the Patriots. But that wasn't the first trade that we saw happen. We absolutely are going to get into that, but I know that you are chomping at the bit. Your Cleveland Browns execute a trade with the LA Rams, sending away your best player, potentially the best player ever for the franchise, potentially the best defensive player ever. I think that he is within that spectrum. Sending him
he's up
to the LA Rams.
Yeah. Go ahead, finish it.
No, that's. Obviously we got to talk to compensation going back. You guys do get Jared Verse, who is a recent first-round pick, 2-time Pro Bowler, a very good defensive end / edge rusher, and then first-round pick next year, second-round pick the year after that, and a third-round pick the year after that, in return for Myles Garrett. A lot of people feeling different ways about this. I know initially when we were talking with some of the guys from Sportsocracy and everything yesterday on the socials, that people were worried about your mental state if you're going to be freaking out. Obviously, we alluded to this in our new segment that we have going on right now, that we've just started to put out content for, our Hater or Homer content, which absolutely go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. We're going to try to get every single team here in the NFL on there. But we talked about the potential of a Myles Garrett trade. And then lo and behold, the thing actually goes down. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on how happy or sad you are with this trade.
All right. Well, initially upon hearing it, I was like, holy shit, what did we do? Because they've said repeatedly that they were not trading Myles Garrett. There was no intention on trading Myles Garrett. But there was plenty of writing on the wall that this became a potential when they started moving his money around. Once they moved some of his contract around, it became much easier to trade Myles, especially in a post-June 1. When I saw it, and I saw that it was Jared Verse, a 1 and more, I was very, very excited. But I was nervous about what and more could potentially be. I was also nervous because when I originally saw the report, I just said a first rounder. Didn't fucking say what year. So, I was a little sad, obviously, that Myles Garrett is gone. Myles Garrett is one of the greatest defensive players of all time. He's the best player in the entire NFL right now. And you could not convince me probably otherwise. But I think this is an absolute fucking slam dunk, and I think we fleeced the Rams, if you want my honest opinion about it. I think Myles Garrett is incredible. But when we were talking about compensation coming back, everybody's like, oh, you needed 3 first-round picks. Well, we got Jared Verse. That's a first-round pick. And then we got a first-round pick in 2027. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to be 32. It might be. Who gives a fuck? I think people are really not comprehending how goddamn good this draft is. To get a first-rounder in 2027 is like stabbing somebody and getting away with it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Nobody was giving up that kind of compensation for anybody. That's why AJ Brown didn't go for that. He went for a 28 because they wanted a first-round pick, but nobody was going to give up a 27 first-round pick except the Rams, who are going to go all in with Myles Garrett, and it makes 100% sense for them to do this. They have a 2-year window for Stafford. Myles Garrett's on a 4-year contract. But when you consider how valuable these 2027 first-round picks are, I think that's we got 100% enough. Because then you back it up with a 28 second-round pick. Say Stafford does decide to retire a little early. That team goes to hell in a handbasket. So I like our chances of that second-round pick improving a little bit. And then they're going to be terrible once Stafford retires, because I don't think Ty Simpson's going to be a replacement for Stafford. So 3 total picks, a 2-time Pro Bowler and Defensive Rookie of the Year for Myles Garrett, who is entering his 31-year-old season and was making $40 million a year. We can spread out a bunch of that money, and we get a player 4 years younger. We were not competing with Myles Garrett, in my opinion, this year or next year with a new rookie quarterback, if that's the case. At best, we're 3 years away, and then is Myles still anywhere near his prime? No. But you know who will be in his fucking prime right at that time? Jared Verse. You cannot like the fact that we didn't get enough first-round picks. I'd think the compensation was a fuckload when you consider the value of a 2027 first-round pick. There are 40 guys at least right now that have first-round grades. The Browns are going to have at least 3 picks in those top 40. Because taking Myles Garrett off of this team makes us way worse. I understand that Jared Verse is a good player, but he's coming into a brand new system, and he's not Myles Garrett. I think he can grow into being a fantastic player, but Myles Garrett is a fucking freak of nature. I don't understand people's vitriol towards this trade in Brown's Twitter. Like, oh my God, how could you do this? Myles has wanted out. He's asked multiple times in the past. Okay. And at this point, with the relationship being as contentious as it got after the coaching hiring, this makes a ton of sense. And to get all of that compensation back was huge. We came up with this, pinned comment earlier. Would you rather have Jared Verse for the next 8 years or Myles Garrett for the next 4? And you have to ask that from the Browns' perspective, because they're not competing right now. So I love this trade for the Browns. I love this trade for the Rams. I think that this makes them way better. I think they gave up too much, but they absolutely got better, and they don't give a fuck about picks anyways. But I will step off my soapbox now, and I eagerly await to hear your analysis of this trade.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be doing like almost a mini episode of Hater at Homer right now with some of these things, because I definitely try to take a step back with a lot of things and play devil's advocate of both sides of how, why I like this, why I don't like this, and kind of come to that point in between where I can suss out how I feel about it. Because initially yesterday, when I saw the trade details and everything, I was like, all right, that's pretty good. I'm not there anymore. I'm okay with it, but I still think that I can see how this is good for both teams. I can see how it could be bad for both teams. But also certain things make a lot more sense to me now after some other information I got from maybe lesser known sources. They're out there on the internet now, but some interesting anecdotes and things like that have come up today, kind of in the aftermath of all this. So first thing is going back and looking at this trade, the valuation of Jared Verse. Obviously, he was a top 15 pick in the first round. I think he has met or exceeded that so far in his career. And so I do think he's an extremely good player. If you look at him and Myles Garrett and their pressure numbers over, I believe, the last 2 years,
close.
They're very close.
Yeah, Myles gets home, obviously, a shitload more.
That's the thing, is that Myles gets home and he's, we're talking 15 plus sacks a year type situation. Whereas Jared Verse hasn't been getting home with that. And Myles has been playing on a very good defense, but arguably a worse team. But not arguably. I mean, the Browns have been a worse team.
They're fucking terrible.
And so teams probably are going to be in more of a position to run the ball rather than pass the ball. So his opportunities might go down. When you add context to it, obviously Myles Garrett is on the mountain.
Another level. Yeah.
But if we call Jared Verse essentially equivalent to a first round pick that you're not having to really do a development on. I mean, obviously he's going to develop more, but a typical first round pick could take a couple years to develop. Jared Verse developed really quick. A slightly older prospect when he came out, but you're talking about a guy who you're not having to put it in the oven and wait for a year or two to get the production out of him. You just get a guy who's ready to produce right now as a first round pick. You are getting next year's first round pick, and yes, it very easily could be pick 32. I'm obviously bullish on the 2027 draft like you are. I still think that for your Browns, unless you are in a position to take one of those top quarterbacks based off of your record and where you are picking right now, it would make a lot more sense to have a first round pick higher up in order to package things together and try to move up higher in the draft if necessary to get the quarterback that you want next year, assuming you need one. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Shadur or Deshaun Watson or Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, we got to throw it out there. All options are on the table. But still, it is
done moving assets, in my opinion, though.
It's possible. It is possible. But you do get a first round pick there. And then when you take the second and third, based on an amalgamation of most trade charts and their values, putting those picks together, and usually picks in future years kind of almost drop around value, but it depends still. Putting those picks together is roughly the equivalent of a late first round pick as well, point value wise. So in that sense, you kind of got 3 first round picks, kind of. But again, contextually, if you're trying to be aggressive in next year's draft to go out there and get a quarterback, you have more ammunition now, which is the good thing. It's just, is it the best ammunition possible? I don't know. That we do a lot of comparisons.
We have 11 picks in this next draft now. 11. And I believe 3 fourth-round picks. We will not, I don't think, pick 3 times in the 4th round. Some of these things are going to be packaged, and I'm not sure that we don't move another player. I think Denzel Ward, since that name came up specifically today, is very much in conversation of possibly being traded. People are calling because they saw.
I think Jerry Jeudy would be in that conversation as well. I don't know how much you're getting for him, but still.
The 3rd, if we're lucky for Jerry Jeudy, I don't even know. 5th, probably. Like,
I mean, it depends. Like wide receivers sometimes. Brandon Cooks got traded 3 times for a first round pick.
That's very true. It's very true. When he was
wide receiver values, and that goes into the AJ Brown conversation a little bit later. But like, and why
we got Amari Cooper for a 5th.
Yeah, so it's wildly dramatic, different trade values there with those players. But either way, you have more ammunition, not just next year, but the future years that can all be packaged to create a sweetheart deal if you're trying to move up. It's just obviously you would hope that it wouldn't be the 32nd pick. You would hope that it would be a higher value pick. But one of the things that we definitely do is we compare and contrast to other notable players that are traded. And the Micah Parsons trade is probably our most recent big name defensive end edge type of pick. And that was Kenny Clark and 2 first round picks. And so I feel like the 2 first round picks that Dallas got in return carry more weight, agnostic of the draft class, obviously, because we feel certain ways about the 2027 draft class. But I feel like that, was closer to the value that you could have been hoping for with a Myles Garrett. I think a lot of times when we've talked 3 first-round picks was definitely in the conversation. And so I think that you are in and around that, but I still feel like it probably could have been sweetened a little bit more with how the Rams are so blasé with their picks. The other thing that kind of goes into this is the salary cap implications. And I know you kind of brought that up. Now, according to Over the Cap right now, they have the Browns eating $21 million this year off the salary cap in dead cap for Myles Garrett. And next year, $51 million, because you can't spread out the stuff over years. It just hits next June 1st.
That's not what I saw at all.
That when a player is traded, the dead cap can't be spread over years, to my understanding.
It all comes June 1, it can't.
So you have the cap that he was due prior to June 1st this year, the cap that he was due after June 1st this year, and then next June 1st, you have the entire bill coming due. So from what I was able to see on Over the Cap, it would be a 51 and some odd adjusted dollars dead cap hit on June 1st next year. Whereas the Rams are going to be taking a $9.14 million cap hit this year, $16 million next year, and $21.3 in 2028. 2029, a huge chunk of money is due for Myles Garrett, but that allows you at that point in time to reassess or to cut him, trade, what have you. They can basically get out of the contract at that point without taking a huge hit. So for the Rams perspective, they are looking at a 2-year window right now. They got potentially one of the greatest defensive players of all time to replace a good one, a very good defensive end, but they got Myles Garrett to come in for essentially, you almost have to look at it from their perspective as a negation of the player, because you are just putting the best guy to replace him out there. And then they're giving up a first-round pick next year, which they felt like they're going to be picking very late in the draft. And then some future mid-round picks when they aren't going to necessarily be as competitive, but they'll have their first-round picks potentially available again, and they can move around with them as they want to. So from their perspective, this doesn't feel I as a Rams fan, I wouldn't feel like I got fleeced at all. I would feel like we might have even gotten a deal on this. And so looking at it from that perspective, as a Browns fan, I'm happy with it because there was already rocky situations there. Apparently, according to reports, Todd Monken and Myles Garrett hadn't spoken since he was signed, which should have been showing that something potentially was coming down the line. And so this was coming to a head. He's an extremely expensive player. And for the reasons like you brought up, you might not be competitive in the next year to 2 years or so. So you might as well get as much value as you can for the player now, while instead of just kind of having him waste away on your team while you are not necessarily full rebuild, but you are retooling for sure.
100%.
So now this is, excuse me. This is the point in the time of the show where I am going to eat some crow. You don't have to go along with this if you don't want to. We've talked a lot of shit about the Rams drafting Ty Simpson. And
I still think it's the wrong idea.
It all makes complete sense to me now. Trevor Plouffe. Is that a name that you recall?
Yeah, he's a fucking pitcher for the Twins.
Yeah. He is really good friends, apparently, like grew up best buddies with Matt Stafford. Trevor Plouffe went on a show in the past 24 hours and said this trade was already done before the draft. He said we had to sit on it, couldn't talk about it, but it was done before the draft. The Rams knew that they have a Super Bowl caliber roster right now, and that they're not going to be, they think they're going to be having a Super Bowl caliber roster in the next couple of years. Adding Myles Garrett is only going to increase that. The trades that they made for those Chiefs cornerbacks only increase that. They know that they aren't going to have a shot to get a Stafford replacement because they're going to be making the Myles Garrett trade. So they did overpick Ty Simpson, but we've said it before, the best situation for Ty Simpson is to sit for at least 2 years behind an extremely good coach, an extremely good offensive team, an extremely good quarterback to be a mentor. And if he's going to have a chance to succeed, it would be in that situation. If the Rams know that they're not going to be in a position to go after a quarterback to replace Stafford, you kind of have to take the guy that you can get now if you think that you can develop him, and which is the situation that they were in. They thought, we are going to execute this Myles Garrett trade. We aren't going to have a shot at a quarterback in the next 2 years because we're going to be picking too late. Get our guy now. Let him sit. Let him develop. We'll execute the Myles Garrett trade. And we've got 2 years to possibly go on a little Super Bowl run. And then when Stafford decides to retire, we have a guy who is our built-in version of potentially Jordan Love. That's what the Packers did there. And we have our thoughts on Jordan Love, but in general, around the league, he's viewed at least as a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. And when Jared Goff was with the Rams, he was a middle-of-the-pack quarterback, and Sean McVay took him to the fucking Super Bowl. Yeah. So it can still theoretically be done. But also, at the end of this 2 years, they're going to have a whole bunch of contracts that they have to move off from. So it's going to be a turnover time. So you're either going to see that you have the guy in Ty Simpson, or they're going to be bad and then be in a position to go out and pick a quarterback come 2029. So this was all like brilliant mind thought about ahead of time. If this trade was in fact in framework already set in place. And if you were to believe Trevor Plouffe, he said, yes, Stafford already knew. They went and briefed him the whole thing. They said, we got Myles Garrett. We got the trade worked out. We're going to take your replacement for a couple years in the future. Is that going to piss you off? Nope. This is our plan. Next 2 years, we're fucking sending it. We're going for the whole damn thing. And I sit back and I think, yeah, Ty Simpson wasn't my favorite quarterback, but I can see a developmental path for him. They drafted him way too high, but also they just looked into the crystal ball and were like, chances are the next 2 years we're not picking a quarterback. We're not going to have a chance to pick a guy to develop.
Yeah.
So same with the Seahawks this year, took Jadarian Price by most people's metrics too high, even though like I thought it was okay. I think that he's going to be a good running back and they had a need for him. The Rams are looking into the future, possibly playing 4D chess of like 2 years down the line after we fucking send it all. This is our one opportunity to get a quarterback that we don't have to wait, draft him in 2028 or 29 and sit for 2 years or 3 years developing him. He gets the 2 or 3 years of development time in the best situation possible. Like I still think that if they were truly only focused on going all fucking in for this year, you draft Mekhi Lemon. But NFL teams and good GMs they shouldn't only be looking for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Les Snead traditionally is a guy that seems to look 1 to 2 years in the future and will throw his picks around to make that shit happen. But they've done that. It has taken them to the mountaintop and had them fall. But they also are really good at drafting and developing guys. 2 years ago, they had a no-name defense. And they turned out to be pretty fucking good because they're good at drafting, good at developing. They got good coaches there. So they are probably going to have a bit of a fall off after 2 years, but it might not be as bad as people think, especially if Ty Simpson ends up working out.
Oh man!
So,
hey producer,
in that respect,
an allergy pill.
In that respect, I get now why they did the Ty Simpson trade, or not the trade, the Ty Simpson pick. Like, if they're able to thread this needle correctly, they're going to come out in like 3 years, possibly with 1 to 2 Super Bowl rings or Super Bowl appearances and looking like geniuses. All right. The other side of this is that for your team, like I said, I understand the benefit and everything that you got.
Thank you.
Absolutely understand it for the Rams because they're going all in, but this could be an absolute fucking clusterfuck because, like I said, they're trying to thread a needle here. If Matt Stafford gets hurt, it's fucking over. Like Ty Simpson is not
100%.
ready to play now. He's not ready to play next year, probably. if Stafford,
I would never root for an injury for Stafford, but I got to tell you, if there's any place in America that will not be fucking sad if he goes down, it's Cleveland.
Yeah, because of that pick, for sure. But that's the thing, is
we'll
like,
send him flowers and shit, and we'll get better soon. I mean, like, next year. But
he's not a young man, and he's had back injuries and tailbone problems and other injuries throughout his career. It is not out of the question that he has a old man injury this year, and the season goes from being, as of right now, the number one odds team for the Super Bowl on all betting markets to them being middle of the pack. And then this shoot the moon scenario just took a giant shit. And it'll be great to have Myles Garrett there, but also it'll be a much more difficult climb to be getting into the playoffs as a wild card team potentially, because they're not playing in an easy division. Sorry, Cardinals. But like, you're not playing in an easy division. It's going to be an uphill battle unless you are going in with this stacked fucking roster like they are right now. So it's
teams try this in the past though, and that doesn't always work out. The best team doesn't always win the motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, the Patriots were undefeated going into the Super Bowl and lost.
That is the beauty of the NFL, is that there is parity. These things happen. Now, the last kind of weird, fun little linchpin to this whole thing, something that got brought up pretty quick yesterday. Could Aaron Donald return?
100%. If I'm Aaron Donald, I'd fucking come out of retirement.
He's 35 years old. And let me set the stage here. 35 years old, still jacked to the fucking gills.
Yeah, 100%.
Still looks like he has it. Constantly posts his workout videos. I believe yesterday, June 1st, before any of the trade stuff went down, or maybe the 31st of May, within the past 72 hours, he had posted on social media a post of him lifting, something along the lines, and I'm absolutely paraphrasing here, about how he still has it and could still do it. And it was playing a song about like getting back on the saddle, essentially. He was asked today, and I believe reported on the McAfee show from Jordan Schultz, that they texted Aaron Donald and his representatives, and the response that they got back was, I am for sure flirting with the idea. Hell of an opportunity with the Super Bowl in SoFi this year. If I can find the fire, it's absolutely a possibility. How scary is that? Fucking think of Garrett and Donald twisting. Like you said,
that's
Garrett's
two of the three probably greatest defenders of all time on the same fucking team.
I would at least put him in the top 5. And the past 20 years, probably the top 2.
Yeah, without a doubt. Suck it, TJ Watt.
And you know what? Aaron Donald could just prepare until week 15.
Yeah, he would.
Then play a couple weeks to get back in the rhythm, and then all of a sudden playoff time, you having Donald and Garrett do twists and stunts. How fucking nasty that is. I don't care if you're
Garrett crossing people over, walking up while Aaron Donald is getting ready to just fucking demolish somebody.
If you're Trent Williams, you're like, I need 2 tight ends to help. And I'm arguably the best left tackle in the league. And that's just with Myles Garrett, not with Aaron Donald involved. That's what Myles Garrett commands. So it's a pretty wild fucking trade that went down. Huge implications. I don't think it's done, because I think that the Aaron Donald situation isn't, that story is not just going to go away, because Aaron Donald has come out and said, I'm considering it.
I mean, if I'm Aaron Donald, I'd come out. And I mean, it's Aaron Donald. Of course he can come back and play. Aaron Donald could have not retired easily, but he had everything that he needed, everything that he wanted. He had money. He had the fucking Defensive Player of the Year awards. He is going to be recognized as one of the greatest football players of all time. He's going to walk into Canton and nobody will bat a fucking eye. That's how good he was. So, yeah, he can almost certainly come back, especially if he's been taking care of his body the way he used to.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Do you have any more comments about this Browns-Rams trade as of right now?
I don't think so. I told you we could go for a long time with this motherfucker.
Yeah,
this was a lot of Browns conversation. So thank you to everybody who stuck around for the Browns talk.
Yeah, that brings us to our next, probably the next biggest story of the day yesterday. And I have one question for you, Mike. You feel dangerous? Because Russell Wilson isn't playing football anymore. He's going to be a CBS analyst.
Fucking Mr. Unlimited.
He took Matt Ryan's spot
on CBS, baby.
He took Matt Ryan's spot. And so Russ Wilson is now going to be bringing all of his fucking weird, goofy antics.
I hope Mr. Unlimited comes out, big dog. I came out fucking Mr.
CBS, let's ride. And can you imagine everyone else that's sitting on the panel just being like,
God damn it, Russell, shut up.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks for that piece.
I had the show producer Amber, Mr. Unlimited, this morning. I said that. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And she was uncomfortable watching it. That's how cringeworthy that video is.
Russell Wilson is just kind of a guy that makes you generally feel uncomfortable.
100%.
Yeah. He seems like you wouldn't have known it 5 years ago, but now he seems like an AI made human with the, with the way that he acts.
Oh, man.
He just used AI slop.
Oh.
And I don't know. It's fun. But in reality, that wasn't the next biggest thing that happened yesterday. That's just, pebble along the road.
Yeah.
We did have
storyline, though. I love that story.
We did have the heavily syndicated story, the trade of AJ Brown from the Eagles over to the New England Patriots.
I wonder how she landed the scoop for that story. No idea.
But at least we know that Mike Vrabel loves AJ Brown more than his family. It's a match made in heaven. One that, faded lovers split apart and find their way back together. It's a good trade for the Eagles because they are done with everything. I believe it was Mailata for the Eagles.
Yeah,
their left tackle who was like, thank God it's done.
That shit's over.
He's kind of been a thorn in the side of the Eagles for a while. All the stories are now starting to come out about why there was dysfunction between AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, having to do with potential infidelity and the wives getting involved.
Oh,
and
I didn't hear all that.
Unsubstantiated at this point.
Okay, I was just wondering why the ball wasn't coming fucking AJ Brown's way, but
that's pretty easy to answer. It's because Jalen Hurts doesn't throw past 10 yards, and AJ Brown is a merchant past 10 yards. So Drake May, the top 3 deep passing quarterback by metrics in the NFL last year, is going to love having an AJ Brown out there for him, a true blue number 1 wide receiver who has just kind of been wasting away. He's been sitting on the sideline reading self-help books, and now he's ready to go up in New England. So it's fantastic for Vrabel, for that offense, for Drake May going into his 3rd year. He gets a premier wide receiver, and we could actually be seeing a top 5 type year from AJ Brown. And for the Eagles, they get to be done with this situation. Move on to a Mekhi Lemon. Oh, wait, he's got a hamstring pull. And the question is, did the Eagles get enough in return for him? They did get a 1st-round pick in 2028. Like you alluded to earlier, the 2027 1st-round pick did not happen. It was a 5th-round pick in 27, I believe, that was moved.
I just want to give everybody, I just want to take a second to breathe that in for context. Like a 5th-round pick this year and then a 1 next year, which is a way less value. And I don't think it's because of AJ Brown. I think that's how much the value of 2027 draft picks are right now.
Which we give a lot of credibility to that. I think that NFL teams probably believe that too, but also if you're a team like the Eagles, you believe that you have a late 2027 1st-round pick, and so it holds less value. And who knows how true front offices are truly valuing those 1st-round picks in 2027. But one of the things to be aware of is that Jalen Waddle got traded for a 1st and a 3rd. Like I brought up, Brandon Cooks got traded for a 1st-round pick 3 fucking times, and he's a set it forget it 800-yard dude. No, dissing Brandon Cooks. He's been a very solid receiver for a long time in the NFL. But traditionally, these wide receivers, the 2 players outside of quarterback, which is obvious, but the 2 positional groups that maintain their draft pick value in trades are defensive ends and wide receivers because they are the ones that are least influenced by the things around them. Like wide receivers create and separate and catch on their own as long as the ball gets thrown in their relative vicinity, i.e. Case Keenum playing for my Vikings and having Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs look like they were the best thing since sliced bread. And they were both really good receivers playing with a very mid quarterback. You're going to have a bad quarterback and put up big numbers. That's why receivers still go for quite a bit in the trade market. Defensive ends are able to go one-on-one with tackles, and they are the biggest influential disruptor on the defensive side of the ball. Those guys go for big-time picks when it comes to trades. So for a first-round pick to be involved for A.J. Brown, that's good. For it to be a first-round pick in 2028, not so fucking good, in my opinion. I would have been looking for a lot more if I was Harry Roseman. Would you take
a fucking second and a fourth this year, or a second and the fifth this year?
I would have been looking for if the first round pick this year was off the table, truly.
A 2 and a 3, then, right?
I need a 2 and a 4. At a minimum a third year this year with the first in 2028. But I'm probably looking for a second this year and we'll call it a conditional second in 2028 that could be upgraded to a first based on how A.J. Brown performs. Like throw some conditions in there or something like that, because
fifth round pick is crazy this year.
Yeah, that it was a toss in. That was a fuck you, I want my picks back type of play. You pancake eating motherfucker. That was like one of those sorts of things that was done, which Howie Roseman typically seems to do well with trades. At least when he trades with my fucking Vikings, he seems to get us over. But like he seems to be doing a pretty good job in getting requisite value for trades. So I think that it was necessary. We knew it was going to happen. It was sucked into being by Rossini and Vrabel. And so we knew it was going to happen. And maybe that took some of the teeth out of the ability to do a bigger trade. But I think that the Patriots ultimately came out better than the Eagles on this one. But that's because it was a necessity for the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown. The only other question would be, was there any other potential suitors? Because as of right now on the free agent market, if you're in need of a wide receiver, which the Patriots absolutely were, if you need a wide receiver, you got Stephon Diggs. And questions around his, I don't want to call it maturity, but off the field stuff, obviously that got cleared recently, but it's a continuing thing that always seems to happen with him. Also, he's getting a little bit older, and there's some injuries that creep out and stuff like that. So you got Stephon Diggs, and I think A.J. Brown's in a better spot than him right now. Like I said, Jalen Waddle got traded for a first and a third. I think A.J. Brown's a better player than him right now. So I'm interested to get your thoughts on the value of this trade and how you think it's going to work out for both sides.
The value, I mean, I've kind of already alluded to. I don't like the value going back for the Eagles. The fact that you don't get hardly shit in 27 sucks. But at the same time, are you willing to take less to get the headache out of the locker room? Because by all accounts now, I mean, with Mailata's comments, I mean, he was a headache. People wanted him gone. So are you willing to take less to do that? Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Especially if I can get a first-round pick out of it at some point. Say this doesn't work out. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that bad shit happens around this organization with all the shit's going on with Vrabel and Rossini. Who knows, right? So for the Eagles, I don't love the amount of value I got, but I like the way my locker room improves. So I'm willing to take the hit if I'm them. If I'm the Patriots, I'm like, awesome. I mean, him and Vrabes are fucking super close, obvi. And then Drake May gets a legit one for at least a couple of years, and they can make a run at another Super Bowl. This team was, outkicked their coverage, exceeded expectations, however you want to say it. Adding a guy like A.J. Brown definitely helps Drake May in the progression of this offense. They addressed offensive line. Like, they are trying to position themselves to get back there immediately. This move works for them. And they don't have to give up a 2027 high pick. So the Patriots did a great job here. I think the value was too low, but if I'm the Eagles, I don't have a problem with that. So AJ Brown is fucking gone. That's how I would put this. That's how I would map all that out.
Yeah. Look, I plan on getting in touch with Philadelphia Eagles shithawk reporter Roberto Gussolini in the near future, and it'll be fun to get his thoughts on it. The one anecdote I got from him today was it was bound to happen and needed to happen. That was it. There was no like it was a good thing or a bad thing. It was bound to happen, needed to happen. So that takes you there. We did have a couple other big signings in the past 24 hours. I believe it's Derick Hall and the Seahawks reached a $42 million extension. He was big in the Super Bowl. I believe had 2 sacks. So $42 million extension worth 46 and a half, including 21 million guaranteed. Big payday for him. Nick Herbig for the Steelers, kind of their designated pass rusher there. 4-year, $100 million extension with 42 million guaranteed on that one. And then before the show started a little bit earlier today, Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons, 4-year, $141 million extension, including 100 million guaranteed. It could work its way up to 150 million if he reaches his incentives in the deal, which is going to be great for whichever left-handed broken quarterback is throwing to him out there.
It's great for Drake London. That's who this is great for because he's getting fucking paid. Now, I don't want to just bash on Falcons fans, but I think that Drake London deserves a large payday. He's the third highest paid receiver now with this deal. Okay, cool. He's young. He's due. That's kind of how these things work. He's due for a big payday. But I have some very serious concerns as how this is going to work out because when Kevin Stefanski took over play calling and ran the offense in Minnesota, who were the top receivers? It was Thielen and Diggs. Mm-hmm. And what happened when Stefanski started calling the plays? Their production dropped. Kevin Stefanski goes to Cleveland. Is hired as offensive as the head coach, still is the play caller, offensive coordinator type. And you know what? We make a big splash move. We sign fucking OBJ. You know what happens to OBJ's production? It drops. I think Drake London's a pretty good player. I was not super high on Drake London, but he's shown quite a bit of ability in the NFL. So I'll eat crow on that. But I don't know that the Falcons fans are going to like the way this contract works out because it's a fucking huge payday for a guy who deserves it. But you're probably going to see a dip in his production. And it probably won't be his fault. So don't blame Drake London when he's fucking getting 850 yards and 3 touchdowns and getting paid $35 million a year because that's what Kevin Stefanski is going to do to Drake London.
It is. Stefanski doesn't run a flashy offense for sure. It doesn't create a whole bunch of high producers in a lot of areas, and you are dealing with a interesting, we'll call it, quarterback situation down there. So, yeah, look, good for him for getting the bag for sure.
Yeah, get paid.
And that does lock him in there for the next 4 years. 2 years from now, it might not be Penix or Tua at quarterback there. They might be looking elsewhere just based off of injuries and things like that. So maybe by the time they get another quarterback in there, be it a rookie or a veteran, maybe then it'll start to make a little bit more sense and the contract will be a little bit more worth it. But obviously something that we'll have to watch. Look, I wasn't the biggest Drake London fan either. I liked him, but not as high as he was going. And last year he really exploded onto the scene. Like he's been good, but last year really started to show why he was as high of a pick as he was. Was that more of a 1-year thing or is that going to be consistent? We'll see.
I I don't think it's going to be his fault if he doesn't produce.
Look,
but,
I did.
Well, I'll have to go. Actually, I'll have to watch a lot of Falcons games to see if that is the case. If it's Drake's fault or if it's maybe the play calling's fault.
I did just have a diatribe about how wide receivers hold their value in trades because they are able to be self-producers. But the offensive scheme does play a bigger role in that. He does have two big knocks going against him as to why his production could take a dip.
Best running back in the league, coach that loves to run the ball, and multiple tight ends. 850 yards, 3 touchdowns. Calling it now.
Yep. All righty. Outside of that, my Minnesota Vikings finally brought in a new GM.
Say, I was going to ask. You sent me the message. You're like, it seemed like you were yes and no, a little in and out. After a couple days removed, are you like, I am very happy because you said that he was kind of the guy you wanted, but are you fully in now? Because I know how you are. It takes you a couple days. You eventually find a way to be like, yep, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm ready to hear it.
So I am very happy with the Nolan Teasley hire. He was the guy that I did want us to bring in as far as an outside GM hire. My only trepidation has been Rob Brzezinski. He's been with the franchise for over 20 years. He's been fantastic. I felt like he led a very good offseason. And obviously he was in the running for potentially being that GM. My fear was if you bring in an outside GM, do you then lose Brzezinski? And we did not. He's maintaining his role as executive vice president, which was a promotion this last year. After the Kwesi firing, they promoted him to executive vice president of player personnel. And that came with a pay raise, and they just gave him another pay raise, even though he didn't get the job. They've paid him. He's happy. He's there. He's part of the triumvirate of the coaching staff in Kevin O'Connell, Nolan Teasley as the GM, and now you have your EVP of football in Brzezinski. That was my fear, and that's been assuaged. So I'm happy there. I think it was nice. I think he was the best possible hire externally. Obviously, you're not super locked in to front office personnel, but the anecdotes that are coming out was that in most metrics, he was seen as one of the best up and coming risers over the past decade for a GM position. I listened to some NFL agents talk about him today, saying, typically agents will go and have a meeting with the front office of teams that they have players who play for, and they will sit down and talk about hey, this is our plans for this player for over the next year and future contracts and stuff like that. And specifically with the Seahawks, Schneider had Teasley doing this, and they said Teasley was a football guy, extremely smart and sharp. Some places they go and the GM will sit down and be like, all right, which player is yours again? I don't remember who you represent or blah, blah, blah. And Teasley just knew fucking everything and was very to the point with this is where we see your guy going. This is how we want to use him. This is our plan for him in the future, how we can possibly work on contracts. He was very on with it. So it sounds like he is a football-y guy, which is always a good thing when you're going from the complete opposite, a guy who didn't ever play football, didn't know football, was a stock market trader, and apparently not a good people person. But some more information about Teasley, and I wrote this down here. He previously was in marketing, spent roughly 6 years as in a marketing career after college. He's from Washington, has been in Washington his whole life, Washington State. He wanted to work in football and hadn't found a way into the league. And in 2013, he started writing letters every quarter to every single NFL team, handwritten letters that were personalized based off the team, asking for jobs, internships in their front offices. He wrote to each team, never really got written back. Had a buddy who was working for the Seahawks who was like, hey, there is a internship scouting position that's opening up. Give me your letter. I'll try to work it through to Schneider. It worked, and he ended up getting that internship job in 2013 as a scouting intern. By 2016, he was part of the pro personnel, not an intern anymore. 2017, he became the assistant director of pro personnel. 2018 through 2022, the director of pro personnel, and then 23 to 26, when he just left, he was the assistant general manager. 2013, Seahawks went to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. They've been to the Super Bowl 2 more times, I believe, since then, and obviously won it last year. And apparently, according to, again, on reports that I can't completely source, he was extremely pivotal on the pro personnel side with some of the trades that they've done. And I think that you look back at the trades that the Seahawks have done for guys like Leo from the Jets, like they've made some pretty good moves. You know, obviously Leonard Williams being one of the high points recently. He apparently was one of the big proponents and movers of the team trading Russell Wilson. And in hindsight, that looks like it was pretty fucking smart. In most of the interviews that he does, he talks about, I'm not about the micro, I'm about the macro with the team, how he doesn't want to build for this year. He wants to be competitive every year and try to win a championship, but he isn't going to sacrifice the future, which I think is huge for a team, unless you're the Rams, or unless you're the Rams doing this fucking, again, shoot the moon theory that we got going on here. But that's been a thing with the Vikings. You'll see sometimes where the coaches and the staff will be like, we need guys this year. Not this offseason, but last offseason, we spent shitloads of money bringing in free agents trying to shoot the moon that year, and it fucking failed. And then it put us in a bad cap spot this offseason. And it sounds like he's not going to be that type of guy. But he's also been involved in the scouting side of things. And apparently he was one of the lead guys bringing in and meshing in analytics into their draft strategy. And it's worked out for them. If you look since 2023, his first year as assistant GM, and obviously you can only credit him to an extent because there's a whole staff, scouting staff, and John Schneider, the actual GM. 2023 is when they got Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith and Jigma, Derick Hall, who just got that contract today, Zach Charbonnet, Anthony Bradford, who's starting offensive lineman. They've, in his tenure, just 2023 and forward, have been fantastic at drafting. The next year, they get Byron Murphy, AJ Barner, who are big role players. 2025, Gray Zabel, Nick Emanwari, Elijah Arroyo, Torrey Horton. Like they've gotten guys in these drafts that have been important role players. This most recent draft, a class that I do like, Jadarian Price, Bud Clark, Julian Neal, all guys that I was big fans of. I like the draft strategy. I think that you look at the past decade of drafting from the Seattle Seahawks, and they have been top 3 in drafting.
They've been excellent. And that's why they continue to be able to fucking go back and repeat even when things have kind of fallen apart. It seems like they just are right back.
Yeah, and it's not like they haven't been doing a good job on the pro personnel side of signing players, letting players leave, and making trades as well. So it kind of feels like he's hitting everything on every facet. The Vikings have been pretty decent at free agency, very good with UDFAs, and absolute dog water over the past 4 years with drafting. And we haven't done a ton in the trade market. We've had the TJ Hawkinson trade and not a ton else as far as big name trades. If we fix the drafting side of things, like it seems like a perfect hire. So like I'm extremely happy bringing him in. It'll be very interesting to see what happens because typically GMs don't get signed at this point in the year. So it almost puts him in like a better position to sit back, evaluate the roster before trying to have to make aggressive moves in free agency and the draft, like a lot of new GMs have to do. He gets to sit back, evaluate the roster, and I'm interested to see what happens with the quarterback situation between Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy and how he's going to spin that, especially with how he, as part of that front office staff, maneuvered Russell Wilson and Geno Smith and then Sam Darnold. It seems like they made smart moves at every turn with each of those guys. That, like, as much as I love JJ McCarthy, like, I don't know what his future is going to be with this GM here. And I have to have faith that this GM is going to do what's best for the team long term. whether it's Kyler or not, whether it's JJ or not.
It might not be either one. It's probably not either one of them, unless you get a big growth out of JJ under KOC. When he actually, now that he has a fucking whole offseason, and he will probably not be thrust into a starting role, he can actually sit back and learn. He may grow from that. Listen, it's the same shit that happened with Sam Darnold, right? Tossed into the fucking fire immediately. I'm not sure that JJ McCarthy is quite that guy, but I never thought that Sam Darnold was that guy. It wasn't until much later in his career that really kind of showed up.
Until he turned 26, which would be 3 years from now for JJ McCarthy. Yeah, so look, it's going to be very interesting. I don't think that we're going to see a whole lot from him until next offseason. It's going to be a lot of set, forget, wait, let him evaluate, see what's going on. I expect us probably to still make a move for another edge rusher here in free agency. I'm banging the table for Jadeveon Clowney because last year he signed for like $2.4 million and actually had like a very solid pressure and sack rate as a rotational guy, and he would have to be the number 3 on our team. Like that.
He's also like incredible in the run, dude. Like he's really good.
But we've just earned another $12 million from post June 1st cut of Allen, the defensive tackle. So we've got some money to maneuver. I think that he'll probably make some small moves there, but it's seeing if this is going to become little Seattle as far as the front office, which the way Seattle's performed over the past decade and longer, like I'm not against that. I'm not against the transition, and it's really good, I believe, to have an outside perspective come in. That Brzezinski, as much as I like him, he's collaborative and friends with everyone in the building, and things in the building haven't led to a championship. So get an outside perspective, get a fresh perspective, and not someone who is actually a football guy to come in and try to interject some of the stuff that happened up in Seattle and worked so well for a long time. I'm very excited for it. I think it was best case hire.
Best case hire. If you were going to go outside, best case hire. Do you prefer this over the in-house hire now that it's done and you've had time to think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. That my
because your initial gut reaction was stay with what you already have because you were worried about losing it.
I was scared about losing Brzezinski. The perfect scenario would have been Teasley come in as the GM and Brzezinski gets promoted to POFO, President of Football Operations, which is like what Matt Ryan's in, which technically is above the GM. Everyone reports to the POFO. POFO reports to the ownership. Now, each 3 parts of those pillars of the team, Kevin O'Connell reports to ownership. Teasley reports to ownership. Brzezinski reports to ownership. But Teasley has ultimate roster control, according to reports. That would have been my preferred way of having it happen, was Brzezinski be the POFO and everyone streams through him. But this is basically the next best thing because we're maintaining Brzezinski, his cap wizardry that he's able to pull off, and we're getting an outside hire GM. To be fair, though, I liked all the people that we were interviewing for the GM spot. McKay from the Rams, which would have been scary because of how the Rams piss out my ass. Excuse me. Because of how the Rams operate.
Jumping picks.
We had Terrence Gray, who is a former Vikings scout, who is the assistant GM for the Bills. I liked him. Who else was it that we had? There's like 4 people that they had narrowed it down to, plus Brzezinski, and I was cool with all of them. Reed Burkhardt from the Broncos, who was also here with the Vikings previously in our scouting department. So I was happy with all of them, but I felt like Teasley was the one non-Kevin O'Connell connection and non-Vikings connection, and that's kind of what I wanted, was a fresh set of eyes. Okay. Also, interesting, I don't know, have you seen pictures of Teasley?
I have not seen pictures of Teasley.
Kind of looks like Elon Musk a little bit. That's my initial take on how he looks.
All right.
Which, oddly enough, the Seattle Seahawks are receiving 2 compensatory picks for a minority hire. Because even though he looks whiter than white, his dad's black.
Okay. little Mike McDaniels situation.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. All right. I mean, hey, I like that program, so I have nothing to say about it.
That's the thing is Seattle. Everything I've seen from Seattle fans and Seattle pods and stuff like that is they're all like, man, this fucking sucks because he was really good. Like, that's going to hurt. And they're going to have a little bit of nepotism probably because John Schneider's nephew, Willie Schneider, looks like he's a shoe-in to become the new assistant GM. But then they're like, we are getting 2 third-round picks for this, though. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
I guess, yeah, trade-offs in this world nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But my man, we got anything else? Listen, it's spring has sprung. Things are turning green, and it's making me cry. I have spent all day outside, which was awesome. However, I need to go downstairs and dose myself with all like 4 or 5 different types of allergy medicine that I have in my house. Do you have anything else, brother?
No, I don't think so. As of right, look, we are in. It was nice to get a pop on this show of stuff that happened because we are right now in the doldrums of the NFL offseason. We have OTAs going on, which everyone thinks, oh my God, this is looking great when these guys are running around in shorts. And man, quarterback X throws such a crisp ball under air with no pass rush in shorts. No pressure. And so it's like we got to pump the brakes a little bit here. And it's nice to have something really good and tangible to talk about here with some of these trades going down, signings and things like that. But yeah, man, I think that kind of wraps it up for this week.
All right. Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in to Raw Dog Sports. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime that you give some to me and Evo, we are forever grateful. I'm going to give Evo one last word, and then we're going to get the fuck out of here. We will be back next week when I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're hoping that the offseason just brings us storyline after storyline after storyline. And if not, we'll make some shit up. Evo, go ahead, brother.
Hey, not going to have another show before my wife's birthday. So happy birthday, baby. I hope you have a fun time with me this weekend. Hopefully we have lots of segs.
Hell yeah. By the way, I'm not sure if I said happy birthday to you when your birthday came around. You told me about that. But happy birthday. Since,
thank you.
Yeah, I'm telling terrible friend. Terrible friend.
I try to not let people know because I don't like the attention.
Yeah. I kind of figured the guy who will fucking just eat. Yeah, I got it. Guys, thank you very much. I'm Mike. That's Evo. This is Raw Dog Sports. We'll see you next week. See you.
Yep.